My 44-year-old female mom, 64, is a little too in love with my ex-husband, 43, even though it's been 13 years since our divorce was finalized. My ex and I had one child together, a son who is now mid-teens. My mom is hung up on my ex being a good dad and an extremely loyal person, also a nice person except when he's particularly frustrated. Our divorce was caused by my disliking his lack of motivation to improve himself and to build a financial safety net. Instead, he was okay making $17 an hour for a niche, artsy small business where most of the employees were there because their passion outweighed their salary expectations. He was a college graduate doing a lot of office management stuff that would have been paid more in every other company. He'd refuse to see reason when I'd tell him that he needed to jump ship before the ship that was a small business being outcompeted in price would sink. Eventually, we realized that this was a conflict we could never agree on, and I decided to pull the plug. Since then, I've moved on with a boyfriend, 49, whom my mom dislikes passionately. She constantly taunts him by saying he wins all arguments because he raises his voice so loud that everybody else's voices go out. My boyfriend is an executive VP, working in the venture capital industry. We have 2 daughters together, young teen and pre-tween, but he refuses to discuss marriage because he said my first marriage didn't work out, so why would I want to go down that path again? Between co-parenting and my boyfriend being my son's de facto stepdad, my ex and I moved from being exes to being friends. We are each other's emotional support, and he deals with my boyfriend's type A executive personality well, which I appreciate. My boyfriend and I have problems because he loves explaining himself, especially with regard to what he deserves from other people. He thinks other people must pay their dues to be on his level. I've compared the emotional labor I've had to put into somebody expecting me to run at the same pace as an Olympic sprinter. My boyfriend lectures me when I'm insecure about other women and refuses to do anything. I'm dealing with hormonal issues and he takes it personally when I'm not always bubbly and smiling in his presence. He recently said he wanted a break, and I honestly wanted a break from his type A demands. I decided to move out, and my ex is driving Uber now since the company he worked for closed, so we agreed I'd move in and take care of his son and my daughters while he works or job hunts. My mom is over a lot now, and the other day she said I'm acting like myself again. I was fine with her joking that for my 45th I should tell my boyfriend to kick rocks, but I wasn't fine with her saying that my ex was a good man and I lost a good man in him. I thought that was inappropriate and not true and told her to leave my apartment. She said it wasn't even my apartment, but she seemed to have hit a nerve. Am I the idiot? So your ex-husband took your assumingly unemployed self in with your 3 kids, 2 of whom aren't his, letting you live off him, again as your emotional support human. So you're mad at your mom for pointing out that he's a good and possibly better man than the boyfriend who refused to marry you, who has a domineering personality, who treats you like an inconvenience. Girl, you got your priorities all messed up. You are the idiot and your ex-husband is a saint for dealing with your BS. I'm siding with Grandma on this one, LOL. Her ex was working, just not rich enough for her, and she dumped him to go target a rich man. The rich boyfriend who wants a break? Yeah, break equals finding himself a younger model without menopause issues and entitlement, is fed up with her. She dumped her husband because she was a gold digger. She got dumped by boyfriend because she's a gold digger. To be more specific, she got dumped because she's an old gold digger with a body that has been through 3 pregnancies. Oh, the irony. The mom just pointed out that her ex-husband is a good guy and she's kicking her out. Like what? Her ex-husband is a good person. Seems like OP doesn't like being told the truth or when she's wrong. A missed detail. OP's divorce was finalized 13 years ago and the oldest kid with the rich idiot is also that age. She cheated and got pregnant, LOL, and she didn't even get a ring on it after 2 kids. Yikes, worst gold digger ever. Honey, you better be nice to your mom because she's going to be the next person you end up having to mooch off of when both these guys get sick of your crap. My wife and I are 46 and 47. We've been married 19 years now and not once in our marriage has she ever cooked. I honestly never minded. She told me that she's terrible in the kitchen and I like to do it anyway. Yesterday I had a long day at work and told my wife this. She told me she would order food so I didn't have to cook. I came home and she set the table. The food was neatly placed on 2 plates, which should have been my first clue that it was home cooked, and I began to dig in. The food was bland, borderline gross, and nothing like anything I had tasted before. My head was already pounding. I was not in the mood for some crappy food. I just looked up from the food and told her, "This sucks, please don't order from this place again." She got really quiet and then sad. I asked if everything was okay and she said yes. She still seemed off the whole dinner. After dinner I wouldn't stop bothering her, wouldn't stop asking her what was wrong, until she finally snapped and told me she cooked the food, it wasn't ordered. She said she was sorry and she wouldn't cook for me again, and I could see her tearing up. She went right to bed. I had to leave early the next day, so she was asleep. I asked a buddy of mine for advice and he said I shouldn't have talked about anybody's food that way. Am I the idiot or an honest mistake? You are the idiot. I just think regardless of if she made it, ordered it, you should have appreciated what she'd done. She was trying to make your day a little better by ordering in food. I get it, usually you're in charge of that department, but she did try. My feelings would have been hurt if I'd ordered food for my partner and me, and he said that it kind of sounded ungrateful, and even if you do have a long day, there isn't really a reason to speak that way. Yeah, it is probably 10 times worse that she had actually made it. You hurt her feelings. You kind of should have followed her up to bed and made sure she didn't go to sleep feeling embarrassed. I disagree, I'm going with no idiots here. She said she would order food. Many people plate takeout because it's easier to eat and it just feels a little better to eat off real plates. Unless you saw pots and pans in the kitchen, how would you know she changed her mind? I think you know she cooked it. You didn't even ask, "Where is this from?" You didn't notice the lack of any packaging. The fact that she never asked you what you wanted before she ordered, the dishes in the sink. Come on, your friend is right. You are the idiot. I'm not buying that you can't distinguish a home-cooked meal from someone who has not cooked, possibly at all, in the last 19 years, and a restaurant takeout meal. My husband has 3 brothers. Charlie and Mike are in their 30s, while Spencer is a kindergartner. Spencer is their half-brother from their dad's second marriage. Their father passed away shortly after Spencer was born. 2 years ago, Spencer's mother went to prison. My husband and I began fostering him. It didn't take long for him actually to feel like our son. As it was, my husband and Spencer didn't have a very brotherly relationship given the 30-year age gap. He was already more of an uncle. 6 months ago, Spencer's mom lost her parental rights. My husband and I have been working on adopting him. It should be finalized after Christmas. Spencer is so excited. He's been calling us Mama and Daddy for over a year now, so this is basically all legal, not changing how we feel in our hearts. Charlie and Mike have been supportive of the whole ordeal for the most part, but we faced a road bump recently. When Spencer began calling us Mama and Daddy, Charlie found it odd. He said that we weren't his parents. I said, yes, legally we are. I said he doesn't have to be Uncle Charlie if he doesn't want to be, but we are raising him. Charlie says that we're basically erasing their dad from Spencer's life. I said, no, we talk about him and Spencer's bio mum often. This won't be a secret. As it is, Spencer is very smart and is aware that he only came to live with us 2 years ago. Mike and my husband have both told Charlie to let it go. I've noticed, however, that when talking to Spencer, Charlie refers to me and my husband by our first names, or he'll say, ask your brother, referring to my husband, or go show your sister-in-law, when referring to me. Spencer is confused because he knows my husband is his brother, but he doesn't look at him like that. We've tried talking to him about it, but Charlie claimed it's a force of habit. We were trying to let it go, but then one day, Charlie corrected Spencer when he called me Mama and said, no, that's Kate. Spencer got confused and said, no, that's Mama. Charlie told him that I was not his mother. This only upset Spencer further. I've had enough, frankly. Spencer is our son. We have him in therapy and have also asked Charlie and Mike to attend family therapy with us. Only Mike has agreed. I told my husband I don't want Charlie at Christmas, we're hosting, if he'll just upset Spencer and undermine our place as his parents. My husband said it's completely up to me. So I told Charlie either he stopped correcting Spencer or he couldn't come. Now Charlie is mad and says I'm keeping his brothers from him at Christmas. I said if my husband wants, he can visit him, and if he wants to see Spencer, he can promise to stop undermining my place. Charlie called me dramatic. Mother-in-law wants all her boys at Christmas and says that I can put up with it just for one day. She said it's hard for her to be around Spencer, but she does it for us so I can put up with Charlie and see his side. Am I the idiot? Edit, to add, my husband has been advocating for Spencer and does stand up to his family. It's not just me. Charlie needs to learn to keep his mouth shut. What your little boy calls you is not up to him and it's none of his business. If Charlie doesn't behave, Charlie can't come to the party. It's that simple. You are not the idiot. And if mother-in-law is uncomfortable being around Spencer, she also doesn't have to come. What the heck does she mean it's hard for her to be around him? That's a child, a little boy. Spencer was an affair baby, for lack of a better term. So while I believe mother-in-law loves Spencer and wants to be in his world, she's sorting out her own feelings. It sounds to me that because she resents Spencer's existence since it involved the dissolution of her marriage, she gets off a bit on Charlie's rudeness. She may be too polite and also a bit conflicted by her own love for Spencer to mouth off as Charlie does, but that doesn't prevent her from getting a little thrill every time Charlie says something terrible. OP, your house, your kid, your rules. If Charlie doesn't like it, then these are the consequences of his actions. He's an adult and needs to learn to act like one. Spencer has experienced enough in his young life and doesn't need someone confusing him and stirring up unnecessary drama. The only one who has a problem with this arrangement is Charlie, and I'd start to question what the real issue is. Charlie isn't slipping up. This isn't a habit. He's doing it deliberately. And since he won't stop, he loses the privilege of coming to your home. If your mother-in-law doesn't like it, she can host him at her house. If he doesn't like it, he knows exactly what he needs to do or what not to do. I think it's obvious that Charlie has issues with Spencer and is a grown man taking his ire at his own father out on a child. But Spencer is young and Charlie is nearly 30. Charlie needs to get a grip. I took my kids out to the mall the other day. My husband took the car to work, so my brother dropped us off and my husband was going to pick us up. We were there for a couple of hours and the kids had loads of fun, but they're a preschooler and a toddler and were exhausted by the time my husband had to pick us up. I was also extremely tired. I ordered them some fries and then we sat at one of the tables at the food court. After a bit, I got my oldest my phone to watch something while my younger one was napping in my arms. My husband was stuck in traffic, so he was going to be late by an hour, so yeah. The food court was pretty empty when we first sat down, but it filled up fast. A young woman and her mother approached us and asked us if we were done with the table. I apologized and said no. The younger lady got annoyed and said we clearly weren't eating anything and that I'd been sitting at the table doing nothing for 20 minutes now. I apologized and said she could ask someone else. She then started to guilt trip me about her mother being old and tired and how my kids and I are still young, so we should be able to give up our table. I said, I'm sorry, but there's nothing you could do to make me move. Please ask someone else. She then got closer and started yelling about how disrespectful and rude I was towards her sick mother. It was very loud and other people started looking. My oldest got scared and my younger one, who was napping, woke up upset. I immediately asked her to be quiet as she was scaring my kids. She rolled her eyes at me and said my kids are in public and aren't entitled to quiet. I just said you and your mother aren't entitled to a table either. She got mad and said it was entirely different, but a security guard approached us. We explained what had happened, and he told her that she was causing a scene. She left after calling me rude and entitled. The security guard then told me I should have just given up the table, but it was none of his business, and walked away. My husband said I did well, but his co-worker who was with him privately told me I couldn't have been that tired, and that I was in public and should have some awareness. He said older people need to sit down more than little kids do, and definitely more than I do. Am I the idiot? Edit: no, the young lady and her mother didn't have food with them. The table I was sitting on was just one small table and 2 chairs, my oldest on one seat and me and my youngest on the other. I didn't even ask my husband's co-worker for his opinion, and he didn't say a word till my husband left the car for a minute to get something. Listen, I'm not a kid person, but the gall to approach a woman with a sleeping toddler... no. You had every right to stay at that table for as long as you needed to. You were a customer of the mall, food court. You purchased food, sat down and ate. Unless there's a policy posted in the food court, you could have camped there all day. That woman was pushy and rude and used to getting her way. I'm so very glad you denied them, LOL. You are not the idiot. She thought you were an easy target. She thought wrong, LOL. Also, the co-worker knew he was being an idiot because if he really thought he was being helpful, he wouldn't have waited until your husband left. Don't listen to him. I hope someone gave him an ear chew. What an idiot. Parents' work is so underestimated. Being a parent is great, but it is exhausting. I have 2 daughters, a teen and a tween. My husband and I agreed that we'd only buy our kids expensive phones over $300. I feel like they're a waste of money, especially for a teenager. They can save up for one if they want, but we won't buy them one. We try not to spend more than $400 on individual gifts unless it's something that could be really helpful for our children. Our teen recently saved up money and bought an iPhone 15. Previously, she used a Samsung phone we gave her for her birthday 3 years ago. Our young teen has an old Galaxy S8, which still works well. She wanted another phone for Christmas, and we told her we would get her phone as long as it was under $300. She threw a fit and said it's unfair that her sister has an iPhone but she doesn't. I told her that she could do chores and babysitting or save up birthday and Christmas money from relatives to get an iPhone, but we wouldn't buy her one. My husband thinks we should buy her an iPhone because it's unfair that her sister has one, but she doesn't. I told my husband that it was unfair for us to get her an $800 iPhone while my older child only receives a $100 gift. My daughter is angry at me. She doesn't want to work for it and says that all her friends have iPhones and it's embarrassing not to have one. I offered to get her a refurbished iPhone for $450 on her birthday in February, but I said I wouldn't spend more. I don't think a teen her age needs an $800 smartphone. Now she hasn't been speaking to me for a few hours and says I'm ruining her life. Should I just get her an iPhone? Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. A young teen doesn't need an $800 phone. Also, her sister saved the money for the phone, so how exactly is it unfair? It's kind of funny to see how this everyone else has thing X seems to be a universal teenager argument for anything. The amount of stuff that everyone else had when I was young, how everyone else was allowed to go to all parties, to be out so late. Yeah, right. My husband thinks we should buy her an iPhone because it's unfair that her sister has one but she doesn't. Ha ha! So one had to work for it and the other one just had to throw a fit for it? Great precedent your husband is setting there, OP. Your youngest will learn that Mommy and Daddy will always give her what she wants so they don't have to deal with her attitude. She will get worse because she will become even more entitled than she already is. Do not get her that phone. But she doesn't want to work. Well, that's her problem then, isn't it? No one wants to work. This is a good life lesson. If you don't want to work, you don't have to, but then you get what other people will give you. If you go to work, you get what you want. Simple, but life is about decisions. We all make them. My parents had me working for what I wanted at that age, and now I'm an adult who has always held down a job, owned a home by 25, and is proud of what I have without bragging about it. I still don't want to work. LOL.